Hi, I'm Lily B. I am a storyteller. I have been sharing stories my whole life, but on stage and on podcasts probably for a little over a decade. I've been featured on The Moth and Risk and have even won a Moth Grand Slam. In fact, I'm the first Latina to win a Moth Grand Slam in the history of the Moth. There have been others since me, but I was the first in 2013. I'm also a producer and host of my own show, The Stoop Style Stories, as it's now called. And I also am a coach, story editor, producer, and host for StoryCollider.org, a science storytelling show. Basically, I eat, breathe, and live stories. Why stories? Why storytelling? I will say that storytelling saved and changed my life. Without getting into the history, you can find my story on stoopstylestories.com, my website. But I truly believe that storytelling is a way in which we can understand ourselves and the world better. And so that is why I'm here today. Illinois Action for Children brought me here today to help you shape and frame stories. I'm here to teach you about my process, hopefully give you the tools that would allow you to take your stories and narratives and put them into whatever containers you all feel will best suit you, whether it's to share with clients or other people in your life or grant proposals or presentations, wherever you want to put these stories and what containers. I say go for it. I'm not here to tell you how to do that. Again, I'm just here to give you the tools in order to be able to find and mine your stories, shape them, frame them, and then share them. That's it. All right, so let's get started with a story by me, Lily B, shall we? Growing up, they used to tell me that if I had a baby, or they used to just say that if you had a baby before you graduated high school, that you were ruining your life. And that's exactly what I was thinking as I sat in the free clinic waiting room waiting to take a pregnancy test. I was there with my boyfriend's mom. And I didn't really think I was pregnant because I had never had a period, but also days before I had thrown up like 2 dozen tamales. And look, I'm Mexican. I have never in my life thrown up any tamales. And so I figured I had to be pregnant. And didn't nobody question me on that. I said it, they believed it. And you know what? Better safe than sorry. Let's go get this pregnancy test. And there I was, waiting. Within minutes of entering the room, I sit on that, the crinkly paper. I lift up my shirt. The doctor looks at my belly, and within seconds, she says, Mija, baby, you're like in your second, third trimester. Say what? Yes. I don't believe it. But to squash that, she squirts that jelly on my belly, puts that little machine on it, and wow, 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 wow is the sound I hear. It's my child's heartbeat. My eyes well up with water. I look over, and my boyfriend's mom is sitting in the corner crying. I'm guessing tears of joy because she's about to be a grandma, but also tears of tears, right? Because she's about to be a grandma at 36. I'm only 17. Her son is the same age, about to go to college in Arizona, and we don't know what we're doing. We tell my mom, who I hadn't told because my mom, well, Angie's the type of mom that jumps into action and takes her son's girlfriend to the free clinic. My mom jumps into action and just starts handing out ass whoopings. But she doesn't do that when I tell her. In fact, what my mom does afterwards is unprecedented at the time. She just, ni modo. I mean, what are we gonna do? She says, that baby's here to stay. That baby is here. Might as well just jump into action. And these two moms from different sides of the tracks, mind you, I'm from the west side, they're from the north side. We just, Montague and Capulets just coming together, and they're gonna do the best they can for these two children, which is what we were, who are about to bring in a child into the world. I move in with my boyfriend's family because they have a car, and it makes sense to have a car if I go into labor and they have to take me to Illinois Masonic to have my baby. And also, they have a whole unfinished basement or finished basement where I can live, as opposed to the cramped 3-bedroom apartment that I live in with my family. And then after I have my son in July of 1996, they rally together even more. Again, we're not families of means. Yes, Mike's family is a little bit more well off, but my family, my mom works a factory job. We're not people of means, but man, do they not get together and make sure that we do the best we can for this baby. My mom and Angie take turns watching my child as I finish school and not have to worry about taking naps or getting enough sleep. My son's father, who's away at college, gets to hear from us every day because Mike's mom invests in a calling plan, a long distance calling plan where we can talk to each other in 1996. And months later, they rally together to make sure that we move to Arizona to be a family so that we can focus on what it is that we need to do, which is raise this child together. I had a whole community of people that came together to make sure I never felt lost or alone in raising my son Xavier. When people ask me how I happened to raise a son who now is 25 years old and whose house I'm living in, y'all, I say, it wasn't just me. Ruined my life? Nah. Changed it? Oh, most definitely. But for the better. My life is richer and a lot more fulfilling knowing that Xavier is who he is. But again, it wouldn't have turned out that way had it not been for the community, family, and friends that rallied around us to make sure that we had what we needed to raise my son. And there you have it. A story by me, Lily B. And now it's your turn. Say what? My turn? Yes, it is your turn. Now, I don't expect you all to have stories just like that. But I do want to give you all a jump off point, like a launching pad to start mining for these stories. And so I want you to close your eyes and picture a child, whatever child pops into your head. It can be you, it can be your own child, it can be a child you work with, whatever child pops into your head, just think about that child. You got it? Awesome. Because we're going to take that and turn it into a story. Just, I don't know the child that popped into your head, but whatever child it was, whether it was you, another child, a sibling, a friend's child, whatever, just because your mind works in wonderful and mysterious ways. And there's a reason that child popped into your head. Now take that child and think of the first memory Again, what is the first memory that pops into your head? And if you have a couple, wonderful. I like to say that one story is a million stories, and a million stories can be one story. So just hold on to the memory or memories that come to mind, and we'll take them into the next section. Now that we have the memory or memories and the child or children that we have thought about, right? Let's put those memories through some themes or prompts. A lot of the times when I share stories, I'm given a theme. In this case, the theme we decided on was It Takes a Village, and so I took the story that I had originally told as the time I found out I was pregnant and shaped it around the theme of It Takes a Village. How do you do that? Well, a lot of it is just asking questions. A lot of it is just sitting with it and exploring your thought and memory. It's a lot like, I like to describe themes and prompts as the filters on Instagram and a lot of these social media Snapchats, where you can just put your face through a different filter and it changes, it distorts it, it makes it lighter, darker, colorful, funny, whatever, right? You can definitely change how your face looks. You can do the same with your story. And so I'm going to share some prompts here, because a lot of times a prompt or a theme will help kind of uncover the layers that memory and that thought that came to your head may have it underneath, and all you need is to do some digging, ask some questions. So I'm going to share the themes and prompts given to me by Illinois Action for Children, and I'll give you examples of how the story that you heard from me could use these themes, and you would hear the same story but from a different angle, lens, filter, right? So the first theme or prompt is, think about a child or a child, right? So the child or children that you thought about, what do you dream for them? What do they need to get there? Now, if I were to take my story, 17-year-old Lily, scared and pregnant, and put it through this theme or prompt, I start to uncover things like, well, where does the story start now? Right? Like, the story would definitely take on a different shape and form. I start to think about it from the lens of maybe younger me, not wanting children, and the dreams that I would have as a child versus what I would want for my child that I find out I'm pregnant with. The next theme is, think about your childhood or your experience working in the field or with children in general. What does an equitable early childhood system look like? Now, how do you turn that into a personal narrative story? Think about your parents. Think about, again, play with the fantasy that is, what would my life have looked like? Because that immediately upon hearing that theme, I start thinking about, well, what would have happened if my mother had the village that I turned out having? Who would I have become? I probably wouldn't have ended up 16 and pregnant, I'll tell you that. But also, maybe I would have, and just have been with someone completely different. Who knows? Would it have exposed other things my mom needed besides the village? Maybe grocery stores nearby, maybe access to healthcare. Who knows? But again, unless I ask myself these questions, I don't know how to shape or frame the story. So explore the memory that you came up with from this lens of equity and a system that works for children? What about thinking about this child and family? What if you put the lens of family, what does that look like? What does the lens look like if you put it through just young children or childhood? This memory that you have of this child or children, what does it look like if you just look at it from that lens of family, young children, or childhood? Nothing more. I'll tell you this much. My whole story would have taken place as a 9-10-year-old girl who did not want to have children. And the very last moment would be, I was wrong. Because I have one. Right? Fairness and abundance. What does your story look like from the lens of fairness or abundance? In my story, it would have become a comparison story. A story of, I don't know, let me think. Fairness and abundance. What my mom versus Mike's mom had raising children. And how we still ended up together despite all of that. Despite my mom having no access and his mom having all the access. We still ended up having a child together and requiring this village, right? But that's my story through my experience and through that lens. It's still the same story. I just move things around a little. And what about living in the fantasy? So you have this memory, 17-year-old and pregnant, right? That's my story. And I imagined a world where I don't have this baby. And I tell the story from that lens of not having my son. How would I be different? What would I be missing? What would be better? What would be worse? What will it take me a while to learn? What will it take me? What will I never learn, right? What will I learn sooner as a result of not having my son around? The story changes. It's the same story, but because it's seen through a different lens, I can put it in a different container and present it to a different group of people. And the last prompt I have here is system access, lack of access. And again, I explore that story through the lens of a young Lily watching her mother raise her, and then being a young Lily raising her own son. I would share the same story. My mom didn't get pregnant with me till she was in her late 20s. I was a teenager. What does access look like versus lack of access? Or I can again tell the story from the lens of watching my mom versus Mike's mom and who we turned out to be as a result of lack of access versus access. Right? My point being is that with a prompt and a theme, you're able to kind of go digging. Exploring stories from these lenses helps us kind of get to the layers underneath the layers, or actually expose the different parts of our story that we may not see because we're so used to telling stories a certain way. I leave you with this. I I remember watching a series of uh, improv groups that would come to my school when I was younger, and they would explore fairy tales from the other characters, the outside characters, so or from characters that you normally don't hear the story from, right? And one of the stories was like, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and what it looks like from just Baby Bear's perspective, or what the story looks like from the witch in the gingerbread house, right? Or what the stories look like from the Hansel and Gretel, from the hunter. It's a different lens to see the stories from. The story is the same, but who tells the story and how it's put through these filters, these themes and prompts, makes it a different story. And what makes it theirs. And at the end of the day, that's all I want. And all I feel that story should do is make your story yours. So I'm going to start with a quick exercise that will get us ready for the next day, tomorrow, of actually framing and shaping your story. In the meantime, play around with these prompts and see what you can get from them. Okay, now that we have that memory or memories, let's start building a story. Now, I have this practice called 5-word stories, I'll be honest, I stole it from Hemingway. Hemingway has a 6-word story, but I feel that we're all better than Hemingway. No offense, Hemingway purists, but come on. Please don't at me. Don't send me hate mail. I choose 5-word stories because it's easier to remember. On one hand, this kind of makes it harder, but it's also because, again, I want people to kind of just get in the habit of mining for stories and giving them really quick reference titles, and I find that one hand, works a lot better than 6. That story I just shared started as a 5-word story, which was 17 years old and scared. 17 years old and pregnant. I never thought I'd be sharing it in the capacity of it takes a village to raise a child, right? That's kind of the theme that story has taken on. I had started sharing that story just as the memory that it was. I got pregnant. I didn't think I was pregnant. Found out I was pregnant. My whole world changed. But for Illinois Action for Children, I decided to frame it around it takes a village to raise a child, and that is how that story worked out. I've shared this story at various events and podcasts before, and it's always taken on a different shape. However, it always has started with 5 words. And that's what I want you to do with your memory or memories. Give it 5 words. That's it. Can you tell that story in 5 words? If you can, great. If you can't, just assign it 5 words. Assign the memory of that child 5 words. If I were to just give my memory 5 words, it was scared, pregnant, lost, alone, tamales. You can do the same. And once you have that, and give it as many as you want until you can bring yourself to a 5-word story that gives you a beginning, middle, and end. If not, stick with just 5 words. Because tomorrow, I'll be back to help you turn those 5 words into what is essentially an outline for your story. We're going to frame it out. All right? And hopefully get to a place where that story can be put in a container. It's been great, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow.